don't look over your shoulder, Uli, because it's not really there. But for people watching, there is a very dramatic looking supercar behind you.
Stunning, isn't it?
Volkswagen W12, is that right? Was it
Yeah,
Nardo
that's
at this point, or was that
yeah,
an old
yeah,
name? So
yeah.
a concept Volkswagen supercar that you were heavily involved in.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's one of the highlights of your time at Volkswagen, that first stint.
My first 3 years at Volkswagen were in research. I was
Yeah.
heading Volkswagen research. People always talk about research and development as if it was one thing, but Volkswagen Group's overall development is at that time was around 30,000 engineers, and research was 500. So we were about 1% of the lot. Although in research and development, it always comes first.
But this was at a time, I think I'm right in saying, when the Volkswagen Group were investing in both research and development, unlike any other car company in the world. I can remember I can't remember what the number was, but it was over 100 billion, and it was like more than the GDP of quite a lot of countries. The Volkswagen was investing purely in research and development.
Well, I shouldn't say the real number. It wasn't 100 billion. Maybe over a 5-year cycle or something like that. But yes, we were spending a percentage on research and development, percentage of revenue that was comparable with Mercedes's. But of course, we were selling a lot more cars already.
Sure.
That was all PX investment into the future. And the car you see behind me, which is the actual record car. So I'm not sitting in my garage. Squirreled that away, although squirreling is closely connected with my family name. But this is in the Zeithaus Museum in Wolfsburg currently. But this was used as a vehicle, in the true sense of the word, to present the W12 engine. And the W12 engine was to become the mainstay of Volkswagen Group's luxury cars. D segment, as we call it in Wolfsburg, and it would be an F segment in worldwide parlance. And that was seen as a somewhat fragile engine. When you look at it, it's very compact, and it has bits that are smaller than most 12-cylinder engines. And there were some rumors, this is never going to last. And how can an engine that is physically a third smaller than any other 12-cylinder and smaller than all 10 cylinders in the world and smaller than many V8s, how can that package 6 liters of displacement and 600 or more horsepower? So we decided to, after we had showed that on some car shows in a nicely painted car, not in the matte black as this one is, we decided to go with a record for it. And it was to be the 24-hour world speed record, officially sanctioned by the FIA, and that's what this car behind me did.
And was that a naturally aspirated engine then, rather than the twin turbo it became?
Version, with trumpets and everything, developing 600 horsepower already at the time, and we slightly detuned it for the record effort because at Nardo it gets pretty hot during the day, and there's a story that I wrote on for the intercooler on that one, and it's that you classified that as a long read because I never get away without it. So I don't want to go into many of the details now, but the previous record was held by Ferrari at 285. And we ultimately, kilometers per hour, that is, so about 175 or so miles per hour. And we bettered it to 202 miles per hour, 325 kilometers per hour. And of course, we did the very short records you can't do with a car that you build for the long one.
No.
So the flying kilometer or something you cannot do with a car that is intended to run 24 hours. But everything I think from 1 hour onwards. So 6 hour, 1,000 kilometers, 1,000 miles, 5,000 kilometers. We fall within that because we did more than 5,000 kilometers in 24 hours. And because we also wanted the 5,000 miles, we kept running on after 24 hours, and the car was running nicely. So that's the same. So in total, we collected 12 records, 6 of them absolute world speed records. No one on land has ever gone faster, and the other 6 still international class records.
And do they stand?
Yes, yes. That was in 2001, and they stand to this day. Yes.
Wow.
5,000 miles at 200 miles an hour.
5,000 miles.
And that really, presumably, that's clearly inclusive of stops and driver changes and filling it with fuel. Did you have to service the car at all? Did you change the oil or anything, or did you just let it get on with it?
We changed the oil in the middle of the night, just because it's good practice, and we were well ahead of everything else. We did several trial runs, and we learned a lot from that. In the end, we didn't have to do any repairs in the final run that gave us the 200 miles per hour. We only stopped for changing tires and drivers and refueling. If you look closely at the car behind me, you see that its ride height is a bit higher than the designers. Giugiaro was actually designed by Giugiaro Jr., not by Giorgetto. But that's because it has a tank with a capacity of 240 liters. So that's 180 kilo to put in the car, plus a normal sized driver. So and the whole car only weighs 1,200 kilo. When it's fully tanked and has a chap in there, then it's looking better. So in the final run, it was running like a clockwork. We only had to do, as I said, fuel stops, driver changes, tire changes.
Wow. So can you draw a line from that car to the Bugatti Veyron ultimately? Was there some sort of shared DNA at all?
Well, in many ways, yes. They're both mid-engine, also the configuration is different. This has the gearbox behind the engine, whereas the Bugatti has it in front. This one is rear-wheel drive, but it's a V. It's not a V engine, but a W engine, W12 in this case, W16, which in concept is closely related, although they share no parts. We developed in the research and development laboratories at the same time, actually in neighboring booths. We did the Nardo, the Veyron, which was not called Veyron at the time, just had a project code, and the 1 liter car. So we spanned the whole thing from the world's fastest car, the most powerful car, and the world's most frugal car. All under the same roof, the same workshop.
Wow.